Well, we are live now, so that's exciting. Hello to everybody who's on here. It's really this is the first of what will be a monthly series within a series of Ask Me Anythings on Facebook Live. We decided to start the first one using the thing we're talking about. So we'll be talking about Facebook Live is one of the things that we'll be probably likely touching upon as far as questions. And we're actually using it. So it's we believe in it. If that was one of the questions you had, is Facebook still a relevant platform? That's an easy one. Yes. But first, I wanted to say I'm really excited to be part of Dahlia Plus and TSNN's initiative to create some really valuable pieces of content that will be released in 3 videos each month, and there are 4 videos currently up. This is the 5th. There'll be 2 videos that explain a concept, demystify something, explain an aspect of event planning, event marketing, anything in the live experience industry that there's some confusion about. We'll have experts weighing in and making things very simple in a chunkable format that's really close to 3-4 minutes long. So not a big investment. I think that's where people's attention spans are right now. That's how I am. If I need to fix something, I go to YouTube and I look up for a video how to do it, and that's what we're going to be providing you here in this series. So that's exciting, and what's really making this all possible is our sponsor, Map Your Show, which we're immediate jumping on this idea as someone who is dedicated to making the lives of event professionals easier and making the processes that we all really have to do in order to provide great live experiences. This is just part of their mission, so it was a no-brainer for them, and I'm excited to be associated with them. So right off the bat, I'm starting to see who's online, and Mary's online, so we actually have a fan. Mary says, but I'm a fan, actually, of her venue, the Cabo Center in Detroit, which I had the opportunity to hang out. Oh, I got a little bit. Sorry, I got a little bit echo. I had the opportunity to be in her venue in March, and it is gorgeous. But not only is it gorgeous, I'm shilling for them, but it's not even necessary. It has an awesome view of Canada, which helps me right over Windsor across the water, which brings me to our guest today, who is also in Canada. I'm trying to make a bridge here, literally. Yeah, I guess, right? A figurative bridge about a literal bridge. But Rachel is with us today, which I'm really excited. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to talk to a screen and your questions exclusively, which is never really as fun for me. I like to see some reactions, some human reactions, because I say weird things sometimes. And you can see how far I went. But it was really great. And I didn't know, necessarily who on the team I'd be able to speak to. But lo and behold, I lucked out, and I have somebody who is as competent, if not, as competent, if not more competent in marketing than myself.
We don't see you anymore?
Oh, really? I see me.
I don't know if anybody can still hear me, but I will be basically the face of all of you. And hopefully I can get you some questions in for Nick if you can't get them to him. And we're going to put him on the spot. And he is up for a challenge. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Please come back.
I'm always up for a challenge. I'm not sure if I'm not on right now, but let me see here. I feel like I am. My broadcast says that I'm fine. Let me see here. Boy, the first thing about technology is...
And the joys of technology.
Indeed.
We will be back shortly. I'm not sure if you can still see me, hear me, if you can type something. Oh, Mary.
It looks like I'm fine.
Oh, now you're back. No,
okay.
For a bit. It was completely pitch black.
Oh, weird. Okay.
So I guess it wasn't a bridge, it was a tunnel.
Very strange.
We lost the connection for a bit.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this is all fine now. I'm looking at myself on 3 screens, and then these screens have a bunch of other little screens on it. So we'll see. Okay, so I wanted to see if anyone had any questions right off the bat, and if not, I can just talk about something that is the first thing that really jumps into my mind is really new, which is Facebook Pixels. Possibly the most powerful tactic that you can use in event marketing through Facebook. That's a big statement, but come with me on this journey. Facebook Pixels are the thing that you drop on your website. So when someone sees you, or actually when someone visits your website, and then you keep seeing those ads of the website that you've been for the rest of your life, that's what powers that, right? And we see them all the time, usually with abandoned shopping carts. I know I see that with like New Era hats because I buy them, and I don't buy all the ones I see, but then I see them everywhere. Or eBay, same deal. But anyone can really utilize them. And this week they allowed you to actually use those on Facebook groups, which is really cool because groups are on the rise. Pages are not when it comes to organic traction. They ever since January, February, March, there's a couple different iterations of what Facebook has done under the guise of their new algorithm change, which really culminated in a phrase that Mark Zuckerberg himself mentioned a dozen times in a span of like 5 minutes when talking about this, which is meaningful interactions. The meaningful interactions metric is what Facebook is looking at in order to move things up and what you're seeing. And to them, that means engaging content, which is obviously a no-brainer, but mostly from friends and family, which means, sorry, brands, you're going to be seen even less than you had been previously. With the caveat that if you post something that has a lot of comments and comments within the comments to show that you have kind of pushed something out there that people really, really want to give of themselves about, they'll move that up. But I'll tell you, it's pretty uncommon to see brands do that kind of content. Except, yeah, for sure.
I see it here. It's because we're on this topic specifically. You know, you see it on Facebook. I know you see some friends posting this whole post about the whole person algorithm thing. Is it true or not? You know, when you have to post and ask your friends to comment so that they make sure that they get to see them in the feed. Does it work, or is it just like a scam?
If you're talking about people sharing brand posts, yes. If you're talking about people doing it for people, not unless you're really consistent with it. Hi, Megan. A lot of people are saying hi. Hi, Keith. Yeah, you'd have to be really consistent with it because an outlier share here and there won't do it. The trick of it is that you see the things that you interact with the most. And if you interact with things the most and you aren't the, I guess, the target audience, the sliver of percentage of things that people see of yours ends up being all to the same people. Meaning, oftentimes you're preaching to the choir. So as well-meaning as your mom is on following your brand posts and liking and commenting, you're only organically only most of your posts are being seen by 1% of the people. And if those 1% are only the people who interact with it the most, that are actually crowding out somebody else. So it's organically on Facebook, unless you're really creating content that is inherently controversial or asks a lot of questions that truly have some meat to it, no one's seeing anything you're doing. It is mostly the second website you have. It's the place where people shop you and they don't leave any kind of, I guess, residue, right? You never knew they were there. They never commented, they never liked. They were just making sure you're busy, you're credible, you're somebody that would be in the...
So like, what do you say for brands, or like brands, in our case, events, for example, you have the pages, they invested money to build those communities. Oh, I love the Knicks. That's a product placement.
That's right, right. No, it's a speaker gift from Florida Festival and Events Association. It's pretty cool. I love a good personalized thing, which I guess everybody does.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So my question is that, you know, for brands or like for events in our case here, you know, they build the pages, they build the communities, and they work hard on getting those followers and all that. And you're saying now the reach is not there, and then now there's a move towards group. Like, what is the strategy? Do you keep both? Do you invest into starting groups? Obviously, that takes a lot of time and involvement and moderation to make a successful group and community.
Yep.
And is there a differentiation between content of both, or do you migrate from one to the other one? That's a lot of questions there.
It's a lot of questions, but I mean, you basically have a lot of options within Facebook. Facebook offers you the ability to post on groups. You can post as a human being. You can post as a brand. You can create events under the banner of all of those things. I would say start with your goals first, like anything else. I think that the content that does the best on Facebook pages, if you're looking for traction and engagement, you're not going to get it unless you're really, again, really close to controversial. This week is a great example. You want to see marketing that resonates, Nike's figuring it out. They're the water cooler if those things exist. And that's based on marketing of a shoe company, right? So that is possible, but you have to really willing to go there, know who your audience is, either provide content for them that there's a deficit in their lives that they don't have, or ask the questions that nobody else is because they're too scared to, and do it in a humble way that leaves you, maybe not so vulnerable, but be the campfire for the stories, right? So I think that kind of content, that kind of content can work on Facebook as pages. For groups, it's really more about fostering communities, and if you have the ability, you can create as many groups under your page as you want. But there probably is a limit, but you can create multiple. And creating niche groups where the content is niche and only relevant to, like, for instance, maybe you have different types of attendees. You have a 101, so first year attendees group, or new to this conference group, let's say, or alumni and veterans, right? And the conversations you would have there would be different. And those people would probably want to know each other and talk to each other in those groups. If you're a South by Southwest, maybe you have a group that is technology and comedy and activations and whatever else, and you subset that way because you have tracks. The engagement's just so much higher in groups than it is in pages. So I really think that it should be in the mix.
So, but you talk about the different groups, dissecting it by segment, and it's really key when you want to personalize and create communities around interests. But the question comes back also is that requires times and resources to, how much time you invest in that, and what would be more like best practices to get the most for your buck, basically, and what is the engaging ways that they could do to do that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff, unfortunately, when I explain, I'm like, here's what you need to do, and these are all these resources that are available for free. The answer is, they're not for free because time, right? And that's true, but we all have the same resources, right? So the only thing separating you from, somebody who is an 18-year-old who wants to put their event on, and somebody who's, a 30-year veteran, the only variable, because it's not like advertising where you have to be able to spend enough to be able to warrant a television ad, is they're all the same tools. It's really an investment in content, and it's an investment in strategy. That's really the only difference between one versus the other. If you're looking for ways, so a blanket statement, there's no silver bullets. It's going to be work. Now, smart work we can work on, and that way, I believe, for instance, in groups, the best way to do that is to find some passionate people who bring a lot to the table and incentivize them to create some content for you. In different ways, and maybe they come to your event for free because they create, they ask, 6 really great questions a month, or whatever the ratio is, so you can get some active, energy around with different faces in order for it not to seem like it's just coming from the brand on high. So more voices and actively contributing, whatever you have to do to make that happen, I think would be pretty valuable. Beyond that, I think that you need to be able to think along the lines of campaigns. So, every Monday you do this, every Tuesday you do this, or once a month you do this. And you think about, for instance, with TSNN, we're doing these videos, and there's 3 every month, right? So people expect it. It's the more you watch them, the more you're going to want to. It builds momentum. Next month will be better than the month before that, and all of a sudden it become a trusted resource for information, and it's one of the places that you actively go to. I think consistency and campaigning really are one of the best ways to do that, but it's all work, unfortunately. Yeah. One of the things that I wanted to say that actually is, especially because you're here, it's very top of mind. The way around all of this limitations is people. I mean, all of this meaningful engagement or interaction stuff rather, that they're hampering brands on, that are making the algorithm see the brands less. They're not applying that to people. In fact, because the brands are pushed down, people are being pushed up. And the people with the most meaningful interactions are being pushed up even higher than regular people. So in that instance, it's never been a better time to be an influencer on Facebook. This is why you're top of mind. If people aren't aware, Rachel has a influencer marketing platform as another company of hers, and called Snowball. And I became aware of it this January through speaking at PCMA at Convening Leaders, and I got a link, and it was personalized, and I was asked to share it. And I wanted to share it. Not only was it easy, but it was actually something that wasn't boilerplate. Here's the URL to the website. It was contextualized. I have a bigger platform than some of the events that I work on, right? So, that's not an uncommon thing at all when it comes to speakers. People have much better resonance than brands. They always will. That's why word of mouth is a mouth and not word of magazine or word of ad. Word of mouth is always king, because attached to it is a person that you can trust. And
maybe that's why
good for that.
The groups, I think they become a little bit more popular, because it's the voices of people discussing things, and as opposed to being sent out messages that are commercialized and trying to sell something or to promote something all the time.
Totally. Your agenda is transparent when you're a brand. I mean, you got to sell things.
If you hear it from somebody else, they're going to believe it a little bit more than you yourself.
Especially if they have some credibility through, actively, resonating the conversation that they have around who they really are and authenticity. If they've built that up and they're not willing to throw that away, it's a pretty rock hard thing to invest in.
Yeah, I love the idea of the groups for the actual attendees themselves, and maybe not even dissecting them into just the ones that've been there before or first timers, but mix them up a little bit, because they can also talk about their experiences. And if somebody who's there has never been to the event, they can get to hear about it, and from somebody that's talking about it from an authentic place, from having experienced the event, that has a lot of value there.
I'd put the new people, and I would have admins on the group of the new people that were veterans, because they're going to be able to, they'll talk amongst themselves as members, but the admins will be able to say, the thing that you think that you really want in that show, that you think that if they had that, it would be amazing. We actually have had for 5 years, or we got rid of it 10 years ago because nobody wanted it. Now we'll bring it back. Thanks for telling us. That kind of community back and forth conversation, where if I'm seeing that, I go, oh, they are listening, and they are providing me what I need to invest in attending this. And, you've got your connection.
And the other point too is that I had a point and I just blanked on it.
It happens to me all the time, especially because I ramble.
No, the whole point of the event is really networking, getting together. But the fact of creating those communities in advance on Facebook, in the group, it gives you that extended networking prior to the event and post the event. I think that's a good value there.
It lengthens the networking experience, and it makes the bonds that were created in a live experience, it sustains them over the course of a year. So you're not abandoning it, and you still remember where those bonds were formed, because they didn't dissipate. I want to get to 2 questions I want to merge together. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just because I want to make sure we can talk about influencers all day. So Dahlia is talking about sharing some cool apps that will help you create content that end up in likes. And Soraya is talking about what are good times to send out campaigns. I think I might be able to merge these two just because I like a challenge. I think that apps that can help you create cohesive campaigns over time are the ones that are the most valuable. And then in that instance, it's really just about scheduling them at peak times that resonate the most. So for me, like I am a big proponent of a lot of like what you see, what you get, drag and drop video and graphic apps, because while I do use designers both in video and in images, there's so many simple things that that I need something fast that frankly I just a little border and some logos and I'm good to go in order to create a template for a campaign around testimonials for attendees or sponsor graphics. I'm making last minute sponsor graphics the day of shows every time. Like the nonprofit that I'm a marketing person for, I am right up into the end of the show, I'm creating graphics, you know, while it's happening. And in that instance, things like Canva, which if you don't know what Canva is, I've made your year, you know, because it's easily the thing that the website that I'm at the most besides Google. In addition to that, there are more and more video opportunities similar to Canva. Like Lumen 5 is one that a number of people I know use, and I use myself, LUMEN, the number 5.com. Really great, very intuitive. One I'm using a lot more now is called Crello, CRELLO.com. Hello, I believe I'm on now. Sorry, I don't know what if it's a connection issue or if it's simply just a technology issue. But regardless, I apologize for that, and I think I'm back. It was hopefully not much more than a minute there. Okay, so anyone wants to lob more questions at us, we're ready to go. Like I said, I think some of those apps there are my favorites. I think, yeah, thank you. This one's called, I don't know if I'm doing it a lot of justice, and I'll certainly have some conversations with them to determine if it's the application or if it's a connection issue. I'll have to dig into it. But this one's called BeLive, BELIVE.com. There's another one called Zoom, which is probably more popular. I don't think it has as broad a opportunity to add these like lower thirds and graphics and things like that on top of the broadcast as this does. There's also augmented reality filters that you can add on to BeLive. I don't believe Zoom has, but Zoom, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, but is primarily a conferencing app, and the API Facebook aspect of it is one of the things it does.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I use it more for conferencing, web conferencing, than
me too.
Like that. So
yeah.
Can we talk a little bit more then about the use of Facebook for promoting the events? So if we want to do like pre-event, what kind of strategies that you would recommend to use Facebook in order to build up momentum and acquire attendees, exhibitors, whatever, to grow the event? So what would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that if you have speakers, you have content creators in the back of your pocket. So that's probably one of the most powerful assets that you can have when it comes to thinking about releasing content over time, prior to the event. And also builds anticipation for the people that they would be registering and seeing. The deliverable is the speaker's content, and that makes those types of events pretty valuable. And in that instance, I think leading up to it, you're going to want some video of them, not just quotes or anything else, because I think that people need to be able to see the type of way that person presents, or the dynamic of them, or something that they can emotionally attach themselves to, simply than just a quote, which is kind of cold and not really as compelling. So that's early on. If you have speakers, that's a thing. If you're talking about purely exhibition, just a trade show floor, my best advice leading up to it is to interview the exhibitors and ask them questions that are not so specific to just simply what they're trying to sell that day. Ask them questions about where they came from, what they're about, what their passion is, why they created the brand that they did, in order for people to latch on and say, oh, I went to that college, I should probably talk to them about that, or I like the same thing this person does, so I'll feel less guards up when I walk by their booth, right? It's breaking people down to make them into people leading up to the actual trade show, so they recognize the people. So it's really key to really have the people who will be present at the booth to be giving of themselves and talking about what makes them tick and why they love what they do, and what their broader mission is of that company. Because I know I watched I was at a trade show 2 weeks ago, and I'm watching people covering their ears and walking by and flipping their badges over so nobody knows who they are. It's so it's like, well, why'd you come, right? And it's funny because so a friend of mine who was at the same show, Robert Smith, he's like, I think I figured it out. What's how to reach shows. He says, all the shows complain about the exhibitors yelling at people. Only one message: come to buy my thing, right? Meanwhile, they're online doing the same post every day: come buy our ticket.
Register.
Yeah, register. That's the only post they have. It's 100 variations of register, right? No trust.
And that's brings it back to engaging with the speakers and your actual people are attending there, to pull content from them that is more valuable, to provide more meat around what this event is about, that is more compelling to come to, as opposed to just register because the deadline is coming up. But what's in it for me is putting out the what's in it for me content out there.
Yeah, I'm putting some of these apps up so everybody can see them, what we were talking about, especially for the recording of this later. But even though it's covering up our faces, so I'll hide it in a second.
It's only your face, I think. I see that.
Yeah, it's fine. I have a lot of controls here. Like even to show you the demo here, we can go like this with this app. I'm showing you how the sausage is made, but you can go like this, picture in picture. I can have it just be me if that's something that somebody wanted. If somebody has a question, I can put the question up here. So this app is really kind of cool in that respect.
That could be a great tool to use on the actual page in order to, let's say, you can schedule weekly or monthly chats, even with your speakers or your exhibitors, or somebody can come in and ask them anything about their session and what's going on, and people get to sample that in advance. So that's a tool that they could use to do that with Facebook Live, because video, I don't know if you want to touch base on video for Facebook, how powerful that is and how effective, and a different type of post, because I've seen, okay, is it better to post like short post, long post, video, infographic? Is it lists? Is it like, what is it? What type of content resonates and creates engagement? Because engagement is always on the lip of everybody, asking, how do you get engagement? We got the likes, we have likes, they're stagnating, but we post, but we're not getting that engagement out there. So what is that secret of content or strategy that gets you that?
Yeah.
Beyond the like, is getting you people to comment, to share, to be more involved.
It's tough. I will say that it's Facebook Live is the only thing that they're not punishing with the algorithm when it comes to brands. They are allowing this type of content to be seen organically a lot more so than anything else. Now, I'll show you, kind of like what we did with this video to show you what I think are good general best practices, full stop. So if you're going to take advantage of an interview format because you have a speaker, or you want to talk about have a conversation with your main stakeholders, some of your bigger exhibitors, schedule those ahead of time, publish them in advance, treat them like an event. Don't have them pop up out of nowhere. Have an agenda. Have a topic that has some meat to it that people crave. Maybe it's some of the things that you're going to be talking about, or that are judicial to the speakers' presentations, etc. But really build up some momentum for them, and then get consistent with it. Because people don't really know what to expect from this video, for instance. It's the first one in live of this series. The next one, people have a better understanding of what is going to take place, and they'll make it more must-see TV, to use a more antiquated terminology. Yeah. I was telling somebody the other day, I'm like, I still say taping things, but I really think that like it is a campaign though, and this is it. I think that if you know what to expect and you're consistent with it and you use the things that you have in front of you, that's content that will people will go to it. And if you have people who are around you in your community and you can talk to them and say, this is the kind of content you want, could you share this as a person? You're going to get even more traction. That's why even in this, I'm looking through the people who are on here today, and I know most of them, right? And I think that that's because you engage with people on a personal level, and they'll come and follow you.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes also for the program, like let's say if you don't have your speakers in advance, you don't have to wait until have everybody out and announced to be able to start doing that. You can start sprinkling them a little bit as you go. And if anything, you can do that behind the scene, really interviewing the people working on it, the community members, just to get a taste of what they're preparing. So it kind of creates that little excitement of what's to come. I think it's a great idea to do that as well.
Yeah. And same thing with meaningful engagements that makes the algorithm go up. So if there is an aspect of the presentation that ends up being maybe controversial, where the person has, there's people on one side of this and then people on the other side of it, a debate format is pretty awesome, number one. And then you can have it continue into a presentation in a panel format or anything like that. But in addition to that, you have the ability to have some passion behind something, and that really is, there's a lacking of that, right? It's mostly just people crossing off a check mark. I gave the sponsor some love by posting their logo, right? And that's, I want to see the fire in the eyes of the person. Then I want to go see them. I mean, truly, like an example of, this is that time of year where I get IMEX emails all the time, right? Which is what I sign up for, and there's some good ones, right? And I got one today, which I was like, that is exactly what I'm looking for, and I am definitely making an appointment with you because of not what you do, but they really, in a concise way, talked about why the market needs what they're doing right now, and I was like, I was hooked on the way you said it. And I think that if you have video, it's that much easier to do for an exhibitor, for a stakeholder, for a speaker.
Yeah, and I think somebody's asking a question is like, how do you gauge the success of video or live video? And I know sometimes we do them and we don't see a lot of viewers right on like live, but people, maybe they don't get that the fact that this video lives on your page after, and if you go back to it a week or 2 weeks later, and you'll notice from your insights that you have views that went up and it continue going up because it's still a piece of content that is there that people will go back and consume after the live. So it's not just looking at who's there live, it's after as well, what kind of reach it gives. I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that.
I mean, no other posts you're going to do are going to get people looking at it a week from now, let alone a month from now, let alone that. Video is really the only format where that's possible, and live video, that's much more likely to happen. So honestly, I believe it's more important for an investment to be made in video than any other format. If you're going to make it in a time investment, as far as gauging success, when you see, like just as an example, when you see the amount of engagement that this post, because this is a post, this is a video, gets compared to anything else around it, you'll see the proof. I mean, it's usually around 120, between 100 and 120% of your likes will show up in a in form of views of any Facebook Live video you do that crests over 19 minutes long. So earlier the conversation was, what's the right length? The answer is short and concise if it is a not live video. But if it's a live video, it actually starts really cresting up over the 20-minute mark, because it allows people who are friends of somebody watching that to see that they're watching it as a form of endorsement, and it starts to build momentum. And that doesn't usually happen until about 15 minutes into it. And then you'll start to see, you'll see some people drop in and drop out, but you'll start to see a build. And that build continues as long as you're trying to stick between, let's call it 20 minutes and an hour. Those are usually, broadly speaking, terms. But if you can keep it really engaging and out there, and like I said, controversy is, I think, not something to be completely scared about. You can get a lively conversation. If I was doing a hospitality conference right now, and I would have two people on two different sides of what percentage people should get, and I would just sit back and watch, because everyone's got an opinion, and they have a way, and they have a thing, and there's no shortage of passion in that area. But why aren't we talking about that openly? Why aren't we having that conversation? Because we all want to, right? Like, I want to launch into a whole thing about it right now. I'd love to. It's not the agenda, but I think that that's something where, if you can, again, I am a proponent of the statement that most panels are boring, and I believe most Facebook Lives are boring for the same reason. They're both lazy. Most Facebook Lives are someone going, Facebook Live sessions are someone going like this, and hey, I'm at this, and what am I seeing now? I'm seeing that, and it's no preparation, no agenda, no value, right? It's just, I can do it, so I am doing it. And panels, I think, are lazy because, for the most part, it's how do we get a bunch of people who are friends, who are all on the same page, to sit up and not have to make a deck together and all agree to something. And it's not engaging content.
No. So is there any way that you can repurpose these videos from Facebook?
Totally. You can download them all. Yeah. If you're the brand, you can download these, and you should put them on YouTube and add some copy about what was said in order to have some search engine optimization. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, owned by the largest search engine in the world. It's just a search engine for video content that's hosted on their own platform, but it is a search engine. It operates like that.
Yeah.
So think about all the topics and the words that were said here and what would drive people there, and create a nice paragraph or two about some SEO copy and a call to action, and bam, that is content that will pay dividends over years.
Yeah.
A platform like
website too. Website too, include an email marketing, repurpose them into blogs. You can dissect them in any different way that you want and extend the life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it has the ability to be, you could do follow-ups on it. You can, let me think of what else you can do. You can transcribe, and there's like software that'll allow you to pull the, you probably have to clean it up a little bit because it's not perfect, but pull some of the audio and turn it into a transcript. You can add captions.
Because some people might listen to it on their phones, or they're somewhere that is crowded, but they're watching it and they can see the subtitles or the transcript on the screen without having the voice. That's also important. That they could.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very important. I mean, I've done events in Canada, and it's a little bit more difficult with two languages. Yeah, so I literally had to have two YouTube channels for the events that I worked on there. So and pay people.
There was one time you mentioned an idea to me that also like brings value to what Facebook can bring in helping, not just like for promoting the event, but adding value to exhibitors, for example, to help in the sales process. And that is a dedicated group for exhibitors where the organizer can give them some tips and tricks and facilitate some exchange about how to best take most advantage of their show and how to market themselves, and all these tips and tricks in marketing that could be offered as an added value in a package, selling it to an exhibitor, for example. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been trying to sell this a lot in the last year because I believe that unfortunately, the job of the exhibition organizer is to make the horse drink the water too. You can't just lead him to the water. Every exhibitor believes that they got a bad space, or the show wasn't good, and they're not put a lot of onus on themselves as the exhibition simply being an opportunity. That said, if you want good retention and you want to realize that's just a fact of life, you have to be in the education business. And your job is to provide as much education in order for them to get the most out of the investment that they've made and assume that they are just going to show up and try to, just the leads will just fall in a nice pile and that'll be it. The reality is if you create a Facebook group that all year round gives them tips, you're training them all year round to use the tool that you have. And you're also kind of moving them away from being an exhibitor and being more of a member of something that is more akin to an association feel than simply just an advertising buy where they buy an ad and they hope they get business out of it.
And there's most loyalty and attachment with the
you're doing more for them, right? I mean, you really care about them succeeding, so you're giving them, it's not just your 10 by 10 space that you're giving them, you're really setting them up for success. So if you had a private Facebook group that was and again, just like I talked about earlier, if you can then make the admins people who are credible, people with knowledge, people that have been there before, and you can incentivize that however you mean to. For instance, let's say there's one exhibitor has a marketing director who's exceptional, and really gets the most out of your show, loves your show, thinks it's a no-brainer to sign up every single year, has all these different automation of emails and lead generation and A, B, and C splitting, and they're just really good. I would say let's give them a booth discount or something like that, and let's make you an admin of this group, and let's coach up your peers that exhibit with you, and let's see if we can come up with some kind of equitable trade. I think that your community probably could serve your community really well if you get everybody talking and the right people talking to people. But yeah, that's just one way I believe that groups can be leveraged for trade shows. The other thing is that maybe you want to just put the C-suite people in one group, and they talk about very specific C-suite issues, and you make that maybe it's a heightened level of participation that gets them into that, or not. Maybe it's simply just whoever is in your organization know that we're putting industry leaders, because it's likely all the same industry, at the very top in one group that we manage. Well, that makes it a lot easier for the ultimate decision maker to feel connected to that group as well. Even if they don't use it a lot, they just have access to that. That makes them feel good. It's exclusive. So I think there's a lot of different community opportunities you can do to make exhibitors, get more value out of what is said.
Okay.
I'm scrolling through some questions now. So one of the questions here is how do you download and transcript edit the Facebook Live video? So good news, bad news. You can't through Facebook edit the live video yet. Maybe they'll do that sometime. I believe there's some augmenting you can do, but it creates it as a separate video. YouTube, when you do a YouTube live, it allows you to, once the transmission is stopped, you can manipulate the heck out of it. You can drop beds in the middle of it. We could have a commercial right now. You could add, rolls anytime in there. You can add the lower thirds, the graphics, etc. It's a whole suite of tools that Google provides you on that. So what I would do is export the video as you download it from Facebook to YouTube, and then utilize all of the tools that they have, of which there's quite a few. And there's I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I know that there's some transcription tools that, again, I find are 75% there, but still require 25% of, especially like proper nouns, they're pretty terrible at. I have, for the good and the bad of it, I've used people to do transcriptions that actually listen to it and write it out, mostly because I've been doing it in Canada, where I have to do it in other languages. So the transcriptions I'm doing are mostly from the government requiring the need to be able to have what has been said in English as conversation like this in French as well. And then that's not so much an algorithm as it is a professional. So yeah, my advice is take it out of Facebook, keep it in Facebook, but take it out of Facebook as well, and use the whole suite of what Google provides you in their products.
All right.
Let's see.
We barely have maybe 30 minutes left. We didn't touch on the paid versus organic.
Yeah.
We can go through that a little bit quickly. And last one I would want to also know about is the Facebook events, because we have pages, we have groups, we have the events itself, and just if we want to talk about that as well. So
Yeah,
again,
advertising is the game. I mean, that's really what Facebook is. Uh, One of the best bang for your bucks that you can really have because you have a captured audience. Now, broadly speaking, there's been a Pew study that came out maybe a couple weeks ago. There was one that was done a few months back. Uh, I'm questioning some of the numbers, but suffice to say, the consumption of Facebook is down
yeah.
as much as 30%, which I think is high, but maybe, I don't know what the median data is. The average, I'm always scared of averages because I think averages have a lot of outliers, but they're down, and that's a concern for advertising, certainly. That said, it's still a pretty popular website on the internet, right? And you're not going to get around that. The trick of it is, for advertising to be successful on Facebook, you have to understand why people go to Facebook. They're not going to Facebook to buy tickets. They're going to Facebook to connect with friends and family and find light, goofy meme content that is, maybe a second screen, or at the very least, while they should be working, but it should be lighter, entertaining. And I think that the advertisements that go right for the bottom line, don't do as well. But and I will say, and I can back this up in every campaign I've done. I do a split test for a direct call to action versus lighter content, and the lighter content crushes it.
Yeah.
Usually leading people to a blog post or leading people to additional information that you extend the customer journey, a little step, but I find that it's necessary. I find that it requires that in that environment versus an email, right for the kill, buy your ticket. Website, go right for the kill, buy your ticket. Those are endpoints for conversions. Facebook, not so much, but it has a lot of people's attention. And if you're really niche in what you provide and you use words that only people in your industry use, that would break up their other eBay or whatever ads they're seeing that are super broad and they're talking about them. If you start saying words like engagement and experiential marketing and things like that on my list, it pops out because I'm like, oh, these are the things I love. Then I start to see those ads and I start to really pay attention to them. So while Facebook it's almost all bad news when it comes to the free aspect of what it can provide for you, it's still pretty good, if not the second best or best, depending on your base, place for you to invest money in advertising online.
Okay.
Remarketing, that's really where it's at, though.
Yeah. I particularly like the feature of the lookalike in the audience setup on Facebook, where you're able to bring in, let's say, your own list of previous attendees or people you're trying to target, and have Facebook scan and see similar people with similar interests to those that profile that you have, and then be able to serve them your content. That's, I think, very, very well targeted and placed money to have in Facebook paid campaigns.
There's an audience segment that I've been really doing a lot with lately, because all the bad news surrounding Facebook is all the good news that's been working for Instagram. All the usage down on Facebook is up on Instagram. They own both, so they're winning. I will say that one of the coolest segments, though, is you can serve up Facebook ads if you have a connected Instagram account to your page that are seen only by the people who have a connected Instagram and Facebook that have interacted at some point with your Instagram account. So follow me here. If you're using like a specific hashtag organically over and over and over again, and people are clicking on that to see what are you about, you can start serving Facebook ads to those people. So I find that to be a really cool segment because you can kind of you can get as niche as possible, but you can, as long as here's the caveat though, if you're the type of person that uses really broad hashtags like event or the name of your city, well, you're people who engage with at some point your Instagram account are going to be pretty terrible, right? If you keep your content really niche and the lure people to look at your page really niche, you have a really pure I don't know. It's one way to do it. I want to say Deb right here has a question, and she just wants to know the difference between paid and organic, which is a great question. Organic is simply when you post something and somebody sees it, and you haven't given Mark Zuckerberg a dime. You've just used his platform to your benefit. That's what organic is. It's just it's similar like an organic search on Google when you just see the rankings based on what algorithm Facebook or Google has in order for you to see the things that they think are the best. And then above that in yellow or aligned in some way are the sponsored stuff. That's inorganic. So somebody paid to be on top, and the rest of it is just through merit. The merit-based stuff based on the content merit is really what organic means.
All right. Do you
Cool.
want to talk a little bit about the event feature of Facebook?
Yeah. So as people are becoming more valuable on Facebook for brands, and as influencers are becoming more valuable on Facebook than brands, so the event is becoming more valuable. Now, it had a standalone app for like about a year, which I had really high hopes for, but then they ended up squashing. I was thinking they were going to get really more into the event space. It looks like they're more into this space now, which is the the VR space, which is another thing Facebook does. But suffice to say, what's cool about the event is that simply put, people can share it very easily. They can press a button and it shares it, and I also get to see who else is attending, and I get to make a decision based on that, right? And I do. If I see someone's, like, for instance, yesterday is a good example. I said I am going to this event at the Cleveland Convention Center called Brick Universe, which is essentially like a Comic-Con for Legos. And I said, I'm going to attend, that week thing that you do, but it does it. A friend of mine who, for some reason saw that said, I went last year and it was great. Your son will love it. And I'm like, oh, cool. That completely validated. I hadn't bought my ticket. I hadn't bought my ticket yet.
Yeah.
And that validated because someone else was connected to it. So the connection aspect of it makes, and the human part of it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and even if you put that you're interested in going to the event, not just going, your friends are going to see it in their feed and they might look at it and get interested or say, hey, yeah, I've been there. Same thing happened to me too for another event, and they're suggesting, go see this, do that. It's a great show. Your kids are going to love it. The whole thing.
Done.
So it's about
basically, they got my money from that.
Yeah. So it's a great opportunity. So because the event lives under the page, so do you duplicate your content? Because you can post on the event page as well, and people get notified if they're on the event page. On the page, they don't get notified.
Yeah, so I think that
on the content, or what is the strategy with that?
Sort of. You get the alert, which makes me go, that can be annoying. So posting as frequently is something that I wouldn't do. I would, like, they basically said they're an A lead. Someone who likes your brand or likes your event page is a B at best, probably a C lead, as far as tiers of leads. They're lukewarm to cold if they're your brand. If they're following, if they said they're interested or going to your event, and it's the event page, they're a pretty hot lead. They're about as hot as you can get. Anytime I know I have a segment of hot leads, I treat them accordingly. I make a decision if I, would give them some sort of early, access to, different type of experience or whatever. But I know that the likelihood of conversion is much higher once they've gone that extra step. And I want to convert them the most because these are the advocates who can tell other people through a share, right, that they can do that. So I don't want to annoy them. No. And I also, but I think that it likely will be content. I end up being less on the marketing side once they've switched over to that, and more on the logistics side. So I talk more about, because they've already said they're a hot lead and they know where to go and they're going to get mentioned. So I'm really telling them about, like, parking is here, or that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. 3 minutes left. Yeah. I wonder if there's any other questions.
Yeah,
He says the alerts are annoying. I agree. That's why I know marketers ruin anything, right? So because I know it's there, I'm like, oh, I could just use it and use it and use it. But I've also had like event apps where I've been in charge of it, and I have the opportunity to push things all day long. I wouldn't do that because then it would be awful. People would delete that app. So I use it judiciously.
Moderately, yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
it's too powerful not to.
Yeah, if it's too much, it's too much. But like sometimes I like the alert on Facebook, like I said, moderately, because it reminds me of something that I should be doing or going to, because I totally forgot. Like just before this live, we got a couple of notifications like we're about to go live. It's like, okay, good thing.
Yeah.
No,
I treat them like the pretty much the already converted, you know, like this is the choir, you know, and you see them, you'll have an event for like 2,000 people and there'll be like 54 people that have marked themselves as going, you know, you're going to get more, right? So sometimes that's kind of disappointing, but the reality is these are probably your super fans, right? So remember that they're super fans, don't annoy them. These are the early adopter. These are the most enthusiastic. If I was going to launch a gamification in order to, you know, have more people find something, I would use them to do that. If I'm having a contest, I'd aim it at that group because they're super excited.
And how do you like? Let's take it out of Facebook. Last question now. I just thought about it. Is that we're promoting Facebook within Facebook to get that audience? Do you do something to bring in your audience to come to Facebook to kind of create that community there and keep communicating with them? So in your email campaigns, in your other campaigns that you do you get to promote these features from Facebook Lives, from different things or offers that you're giving in the groups, for example, to come and join Facebook?
So most of the time, I don't do that. Most of the time, if I'm going to drive people somewhere, it's not to a gated community, which I have less and less control over, that keeps changing the rules to make it more expensive and harder to see. If I got their attention on email, I'm going to send them to the website. If I have their attention on YouTube, I'm going to send them to their website. Unless the content on the Facebook, some aspect of what you're using Facebook for is logistical based, like we talked about in the events portion of it, or if it's just like light a group's fine because that's a long-term commitment, and then I think that's a good investment. But if it's about conversion, it's a weak move to take somebody from one place to put them and send them to a place that is a pretty weak conversion point.
No, it's not from they're already converted, the ones you have, but if you want to bring them into a place where you're creating a community, because there it's one-way direction communication with them when you have them on your list or on your website. If you bring them to a group, for example, specific, where there's an exchange, there's some collaboration, there's some...
Totally. Groups, different story. Groups are less about conversion and they're more about long-term trust and loyalty and retention. Yeah. I'm driving people from somewhere to there, I have no problem with that. I think it's a good use of time. I think that if it's about conversion, I drive them to a conversion point, even on Facebook, you know, really, like I'm trying not on Facebook to lead people to other Facebook features, groups notwithstanding. So an ad for, like, I don't do a lot of boost posts that often unless it's like a piece of content that's branded and I'm doing it because it helps the sponsor. If I'm trying to convert somebody, I'd rather do it in an ad because it sends them right to where I want to be, which is a website I own that it is optimized for sales and tells exactly what people want to see in order to convert.
Okay, cool. 301.
Oh,
we did it. Nick.
So yeah, for sure, we did it. Dahlia has one great question here for this entire series. I believe that we can have this question ongoing because we don't need an answer as such in this live experience. But if people want to, as they watch this over time, at any time you want to watch this and you want to drop in other things that you would like us to find and procure experts from our network to have conversations, it doesn't have to be, you know, certainly me or any of us. It could be, we have a pretty extensive network. What do you want to know more about, and who would you potentially like to hear from? And we'll do our best to be able to provide this for you so we can be an ongoing resource. That's really what the three groups that came together to put this on really all have in common, is that they're invested in making your lives easier, more productive, and giving you the tools you need to create some of the world's best experiences. So we would love to hear the answers right now, I guess, is what Dahlia says. But I think that, if we've got people on latched onto us right now, but we will be looking at these, because again, I'm exporting this and putting this on YouTube too. We will, even in YouTube comments, if you're seeing this on YouTube, we want this to be a valuable resource for you. And I think that over time, people are going to know what they can expect from this series, and we're going to see a lot more cool content as these things progress.
Quick question for you, Nick.
I know, snuck in question.
Maybe you could tell people who they can get in touch with to communicate those.
Yeah.
SNN.
Yeah, I mean, in the questions of this video that you want traditional, I have access to this, so I'll certainly see directly if you have a question for me. I'll certainly see these questions as they go on. So if you watch these, I'll get a ping every time somebody leaves a comment out. So I'll join in this thread itself because I want to see, just how powerful this video actually can be on its own. In addition to that, if you have a question directly for myself, my name is the same on all platforms, so I'm very easy to find. At Nick Borelli on any platform is good for you. And then if you at any point you're on TSNN, we all know each other really well. So if you send a message anywhere on the platform here on Facebook on the page, it'll get to the right person, no problem.
Great.
Cool. Well, Rachel. I really wanted to number one, thank you for being on this because you have a perspective that is amazing for event marketing. So it wasn't just me, my things. In addition to that, boy, I hate not seeing people's faces when I talk. So it's to see a friendly face makes this a lot easier for me.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you, Dahlia, also for asking me to jump in on this and be with Nick. It's a topic close to my heart. It's always fascinating to listen to you, Nick. Lots of valuable insight, and hope everybody got some good tips from that one they can apply. And I see already some good suggestions.
I know,
there's a couple of them already up there, so keep them coming.
There's some good ones.
Yeah, great. So yeah, I was on the first. Woohoo! So
I know, it's pretty fun, right? Yeah. There's always some really great ideas for future AMAs. So we're going to look for one of these every month. In addition to that, there's 2 other videos that will explain like we talked about earlier, a concept that is, again, there's some mystery around. We're going to demystify it, make a simple solution for you in order for you to be empowered, in order for you to create great experiences. So thanks, Rachel. I'm going to go right to the comments and see if I didn't get any of the answers on this and help people right from here. And I look forward to seeing everybody next month.
Great. Well, thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Yep. Thanks.
Bye.